In 1992, there was a survey the survey was done in 1994, but based upon 1992 data, a survey was done by David Card and Alan Kruger to see whether or not an increase in unemployment would result, an increase in the minimum wage would result in an increase in unemployment. This was done in southern New Jersey, where the wages were increased by 75 cents per hour, and in northern Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia area, the wages remained lower. What they found is that there was no reduction or no increase in unemployment due to the fact the minimum wage went up. But even more importantly than that, what they didn't look at was why people in the Philadelphia or northern Pennsylvania area did not go across the river to New Jersey to seek higher wages. That didn't come into play. What is UBI, Universal Basic Income? Well, and does it make sense? We're going to be talking about UBI, living wages, minimum wage, and what does it all mean? The history of minimum wage is over 140 years old, it goes back to New Zealand. In Australia and in the UK, they've had minimum wages for over 100 years. The US incorporated minimum wages into its government in the Fair Labor Act of 1938. Before that, employers paid what I would call a just wage or a basic subsistence wage to their employees based upon supply and demand. A fair wage is also something people talk about. That's more of a religious type thing. There's also market wages, which is, as I described before, based upon supply and demand. Another thing, unions benefit from minimum wage because they can keep the wages higher, and that keeps people out of the field by making the wages be at a certain level, and you can't go below that. It sort of keeps the union job stable. The federal minimum wage in the United States is $7.50 an hour, but less than 500,000 people actually earn that type of money. In the United States, the states really control the minimum wage. The District of Columbia, which is not a state, has the highest minimum wage. And the average wage of an American employee is about $36 an hour. So what is the role of a minimum wage? First of all, it's typically the first job that a teenager gets. Okay, it's not meant to be a lifetime wage. 1/5 of people who make the minimum wage are under the age of 19. Basically, universal basic income, in talking about that in relation to wages, has been something that's been around for a very long time. It's been around since the 14th century. Even Thomas Paine, the American patriot, talked about how wages should work. And the Belgian socialist Joseph Charles made proposals about a territorial dividend to be given to people. Something like what happens in Alaska, where they get a dividend for the oil that's being pumped from Alaska. In Stockton, California, a wage was proposed, and how minimum wage? When you talk about minimum wages, you got to talk about automation. You open the probability of when the minimum wage goes up for an employer to substitute automation or AI or robotics in its place. in talking about a universal basic income, you have to consider the expense, you have to consider the lack of incentive to work, and the inflation that might result of the minimum wage, or a universal wage. So in America, the other thing is what happens with transfer payments, like supplementary social SSI or ADC or food stamps or Medicaid, school lunches, breakfast programs. How do they calculate into a family's income when you talk about universal basic income? And then the element of raising the tax base to support that, the impact upon small businesses, how they would handle minimum wages or universal wages. So some of the things that UBI and minimum wages, more UBI, universal basic income, solves is inequality. It gives the opportunity to raise people's level of income. But it does, as I said, discourage people's will to go to work. It does, UBI, reduce poverty. It doesn't require means testing, UBI, universal basic income, because everyone qualifies. But the detriment again is, what does it do for the motivation, and how do you get people motivated once they're getting a universal wage? If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, and please hit the like, and have a great day.